Hey everybody, today I'm talking about Fast Sloths, which is a 2019 release board game designed by Friedmann Friese and published by Stronghold Games. This one accommodates 2 to 5 players and takes about 30 to 60 minutes to play depending on the player count. So the idea of this game is that we are the sloths trying to take a vacation on this board here made up of all these different hexes and all these different terrain types. So as you can see, you've got the plains, you've got the hills, the forests, the water and the bridges and so on. And dotted all over the map, you've got these different animals. So you've got ants, you've got your crocodiles, you've got your elephants, and they all move around the board in different ways and do different things. But ourselves are taking the role of the actual sloths. And the idea is that we are trying to visit all these different trees located all around the map to collect our leaves. And the first person to collect all of their leaves is going to be the winner, or at least all but one of them. So when you start on the board, you're going to choose which one you want to start on and take the corresponding leaf associated to it and place it on your board like so. Now these boards are interesting because they show you some information that's going to be relevant throughout the game, such as how many cards you're going to draw at the start of your turn and your hand limit. So as you can see, as you get more and more involved in the game, or as the game goes on, you're drawing fewer and fewer cards and also having a smaller hand limit. Now, the twist on this game is that while it's a race game and a pick up and deliver game, we are actually not allowed to move. So obviously we are the sloths, but we have no ability to move ourselves, and we have to enlist the help of the different animals to pick us up and basically drop us off at the different locations. And to do that, you're going to use these cards. And these cards, as you can see, show the different animals available on the board. And the anatomy of these cards is quite simple. So you've got the movement points here, which is how many hexes you're going to move, and all the different terrain types which these different animals can go over. So as you can see here, the eagles can pretty much go anywhere they want to, but they can't stop in water. And like the unicorns, again, can cover a lot of different ground. The crocodiles can go everywhere, but they can't. They can only go on the river and on the kind of spaces next to the river and so on. And on top of that, they've got different abilities as well. So, for example, the donkeys are pretty straightforward. They just move. The ants work in a kind of a systemic way where they can kind of shift around and carry you over them, which I'll show you shortly. The eagles, you have to have at least a movement value of 6 before you can play them. And I should say that when you collect these cards, you can collect more of the same type and then play them all together in one strong action. The elephants, they only move 2 spaces per each card, and then you take away 1 off the total distance. And then eventually you can, well, when your turn's finished, you can throw them 3, or throw the sloth, that is, 3 spaces to cover more ground. The unicorns are just really fast and versatile, but you can only play 1 at a time. And the crocodiles, as I said, they move 1 space faster than their total card value, but are restricted to the water and the river banks. So what you're going to do is, as I said, from the card here, you're going to draw 3, at least for the first round, 3 different types of terrain. So let's say I take one of these. I'll take an ant, and I'll take a let's say start my eagle cards off. And when you do that, you are going to choose which type of these animals you're going to play and move them accordingly. So let's say I choose this unicorn, considering I'm starting right here. And as you can see, I've got a value of 3. Now for a free action, I can actually choose to be picked up by an adjacent space. So for free action, I could go straight onto there and it won't cost me anything. And from then on, I can go 3 spaces. So let's say I go 1, 2, 3, not really important there. And then you can drop it off on an adjacent space. And that basically would be my go. I'll check I haven't got exceeded my hand limit. And any card I spend is going to go back at the bottom of the corresponding deck. Now that's important because these decks are not the same throughout. As you can see, they start escalating in their speed. So you've got to be careful about what you leave your opponents, because when you start spending cards, you could be giving them more opportunities to go faster than you just did, and vice versa, of course. The ants, as I said, I can kind of pull up all their movement spaces and pull them together like so they can go like say I use 1 movement space, 2 movement spaces, and then 3, 4 movement spaces. And then for a fifth movement space, I can go skip over all the different ants, like so. And then maybe for a sixth one, I can go like this. So you're kind of using them to kind of skip over them. The elephants, as I said, when you're on the elephants, they carry you a certain amount of spaces, and then they can throw you up to 3 spaces. You can go like 1, 2, 3, for example. The donkeys are pretty straightforward. The eagles work a bit differently because, as I said in the beginning, you need at least 3 of the cards or 6 movement points in order to use them in the first place. But when you do cash in those cards, the eagle comes straight towards where your sloth is and can fly over any terrain up to 6 spaces. But you have to bear in mind that when you fly, you cannot just do a drive-by and pick up your leaf from the corresponding spot. Sorry, this should be on here. And carry on moving. So you've got to bear in mind that thematically you're in the air and you cannot just drive by and keep on moving. You have to stop and end your turn on that spot in order to pick up the leaf and add it to your player board. But as you can see, all these animals work in different ways, and it's all about being as efficient as you can, trying to use the animals to your advantage in order to keep on moving and get your leaves before your opponent does. So let's talk about how I actually feel about the game. So first off, I really enjoy pick up and deliver games and racing games in themselves. I don't believe it's a particularly popular mechanism, and I can't quite explain why really, but I do really appreciate how this game takes a different slant and a different twist on that existing genre by you being a sloth and you are powerless to move in yourself, and you just have to use the help of all these different animals in order to do anything. And that's really cool, and the way that pick up and deliver and race mechanisms are meshed together is a whole new concept and something original, which I think Friedmann Friese generally does a good job of. He doesn't tend to make games that are like anything else, and he's always thinking of fresh ideas. So first off, that's really cool. Meaningful decision-wise, it really is an efficiency puzzle. So you can see your routes on the board. You can say, like, I'm here. I could use this crocodile to perhaps get me to maybe bring this donkey over to me, and then I can use the donkey to get back to here, and then collect eagle cards, and the eagle can fly over and then take me over the mountains and so on to get to here. So you can really can plan your turn ahead of time and work towards something, but bearing in mind that all the pieces are they're not controlled by any players. They're completely at the will and mercy of the other players, and they're always going to be moving, perhaps sometimes when you don't want them to be. But I do like the efficiency puzzle. I like the choices about which route you're going to take and how you're just going to shave as much time off as possible to navigate the map as quickly as you can. Balance-wise, I think the game does a great job of giving suggestions of setups in terms of the animals and so on. It does generally say that start with these basic animals, and then you can add different animals in, which kind of add a more complexity levels to the game. But the way that the board is laid out and spaced out is really well designed. I don't think there's a particularly stronger way or route to go than another route. So, and of course you're going to have to cover quite a lot of the board anyway. So it's pretty much well balanced and all about how you're going to use those animals to your advantage. Mechanisms, extremely clean, just that simple pick up and deliver. But I really do like this player board here that does a great job. It's almost like a catch-up mechanism, really, where, of course, when you are just getting the ball rolling, you're drawing more cards. Start off drawing 3, then drawing 3 and shedding 1 from your deck of cards. Your hand limit is constantly squeezing. So, if you're falling behind, you can use that to your advantage and be a bit more flexible. The general movement mechanism is really cool. How all the different animals work differently. How you can kind of pick up pieces from the adjacent spaces and so on. I really do like the way everything comes together, and it's quite thematic in the way it works as well. Time investment, the game the box itself says 60 minutes, but I mean, I played a 2-player game of this one and it took about half an hour. So I think that 60-minute mark is as long as it's going to be, really. I mean, perhaps if you've got a 5-player group and they're all slightly AP prone, it might take around that time, but it certainly doesn't outstay its welcome. It's quick. You can plan your turns somewhat. Turns are quick and snappy, and there really isn't much bogging down or just stopping and halting the game. It's always moving and churning, which is what you want from a racing game, really. I mean, you don't want a racing game to be slow and plodding, despite you being sloths. The replayability is really strong with this one. Not only are these boards double-sided, so you can have different setups in terms of the board layout, but you've got a bunch of different animals with the game as well. Of course, as I said, I've shown you the basic animals that it recommends for your first game, but there are different setups here. So you've got the player aid here, you've got your humans, which can move from camp to camp, like so. You can use the rabbits, which are really quick at moving across these plains. You've got the dolphins, which of course are restricted to the water, but when they do go across the water, they're going extremely quickly. You've got the orangutans, which can throw you from trees to trees, and the mountain goats, which can navigate the mountains a lot quicker than the other animals can do. And of course, you can use variations of those animals, either by suggested sets of them or completely kind of embedding your own set or combination that you want if you want a particularly difficult game. So I really do like that. There's some good variability there, which is going to keep you coming back for this one. Interaction-wise, there is some really good interaction because, as I said, the animals are independent. They do not belong to anybody, and you can start shifting them around to try and kind of morphing the board to try and suit your path. But other people might be borrowing those animals to divert them off track and to help them on their course of action. So there is just passive player interaction there. And as I mentioned, the decks in the way they shift around is interesting because, you when you start playing these cards, you don't want to be leaving really strong opportunities like you see the 7 unicorn there, just up for grabs for other players to take, and they can get that little edge on you to pip you to the post. So some nice interaction here, and that race element and tension of getting somewhere before the other people does shine through, which is what you want with a race style game. Aesthetically, I really like the way the game looks. Yes, it's pretty basic in terms of just being the hexagonal shapes, the wooden discs and so on, but I think it's very well fitted to the game type and the vibe of the game. Nice and clean, family friendly look, no radical symbology or anything like that. The cards are really well depicted here with all the different terrain types and what the animals do, so I do like that. I think the art direction is really well fitted, and it does look quite nice in person, probably nicer in person than it does by what comes through on the camera. And the component quality as well is top notch. Nice, as I said, nice thick wooden components. The boards are nice quality. The cards are decent quality. These player boards are really helpful. And so I've got no real complaints in terms of the components or anything like that. In terms of the theme, it's such a nice concept, and it's surprisingly thematic as well in terms of what the animals can do. How you can't just fly by as you're getting thrown by the elephants and pick up a leaf on the way. You have to be on the ground to actually do things, and I think everything thematically, no matter how minute it is, it just works. So if you kind of have a rules dispute and don't quite know how a small thing works, just think about what would happen really, and that's pretty much how the rules work out. So I do like that. In sense of progression, I think it does a great job in the sense of not only having to all that race kind of tension building up and trying to get to these final leaves, but as I said, the how your skills kind of degrade as you go on, that works really well. And in terms of setup and teardown time as well, it's not too much of an issue. There is a recommended setup for the first game, which I've set up here. But from then on, you can actually do this kind of drafting style mechanism where you pick an animal and choose where to put it and play on like that, which again adds a bit more legs to the game. And if you become quite good at it and skilled at the game, you can use that as an extra kind of wrinkle of strategy, which you can get more out of it. Scalability, I think this one scales well, or extremely well to be honest, whether it's 2 players or up to the 5. I think with the 5, of course, the animals are going to be moving around a lot more, maybe things getting dragged up your direction and things, but it doesn't really matter. I think it works equally well, and it's going to be a relatively similar experience no matter what player count you play at. Just be prepared for a slightly longer game. And comparison-wise, there are a lot of pick-up and deliver games that I enjoy, particularly games like the Oracle of Delphi, or games like Istanbul. I think if you like that flavour and vibe, you are going to get a lot out of this one. It's quick, it's simple, it's engaging, there is some interesting foreplanning, there's some good hand management, there's some really, just some really strong and engaging decisions throughout, without being overly taxing in terms of your choices. I think it's just a really nice package that came together well. Another Friedmann Friese design that's hooked me, and he's definitely one of those designers now that, while everything he puts out isn't quite for me, whatever he does put out, I will at least take a look at it, and it will have me interested, to say the least. So yeah, if you like racing games and you like you want a kind of a family-friendly one that's quick, one that's got some interesting and unique ideas and concepts here with variable setups, I really would recommend giving Fast Sloths a try. This one really impressed me. I'll be honest, it was a game that I had on my radar for quite a while, and I don't quite know what stopped me from picking this one up, but I'm so glad it's in the collection now, and it's certainly one that I think is going to see a lot of table time, just because of that fun factor and because of just all the different things that this game does. So this one gets my shield of quality. Certainly a strong game. So if you have enjoyed this review, please hit like and subscribe to my channel, and check out my other videos too. For everyone else, I'll see you next time on Chairman of the Board. Bye.